Hello, welcome to our channel. We appreciate each and every one of you. This is a very interesting day. You will want to hear this. Trump deploys military to 5 cities. That's right, the National Guard has been deployed to 5 cities. A little note on that, the next attempts on Trump's life will be November 11th by the FBI, November 17th by the FBI, the White House Police, and December 23rd, someone plans to ram the president's car. Okay, on to the news. We talked about this, from Immusist. Be positive. It makes a big deal. Don't dilly-daddle. We pulled a pickle from the Immusist pickle. Anyway, whenever someone has dizziness, whenever somebody has hard spells, I do reach for the takedown because it has cinnamon and it has gymnema from Get the Tea. But I also reach for, and it's a totally separate company, I also reach for the Immusist. Why? Because we have shown, I have seen many, many times where people have a stroke, they get real dizzy, and about 2 weeks later they're fine. 50 drops of Immusist a day. Over and over again, I have seen this personally. So I can give my personal testimony because I don't make any money from Immusist. So anyway, on to the news. Suddenly, we have forgotten quite a few things. We've forgotten about Pizzagate, Epstein Island. We've forgotten about the Shabbat Holy Temple and Diddy, who underneath their homes were lots of, shall we say, human remains. Just like in the Presidio, when I asked the fire department, what are you going to do with the caves and the human remains under the houses in the Presidio? And they said, we don't know. This was under the colonel's house who ran the Presidio. Anyway, South Carolina, the Attorney General has not prosecuted one case of child molestation ever. They don't prosecute child rape. They just let them go. Don't you think that's a little funny that the South Carolina Attorney General doesn't prosecute child molestation, and yet he's not in jail? So they're going to go after several thousand child molesters, but not the Attorney General who allowed it to happen. So they're going after the low-hanging fruit. And then there's still suppression across the net. The government is shut down, continues. Remember, they're arguing now in Congress about the bills that will pass to open the government. Yet the Senate is in Yountville Hotel, 10 miles north of Napa, each one spending about $5,000 a day on themselves. Sorry. I'll tell you what, that nasal spray did a number on me. So when you see a senator, there's nobody in the Senate chambers. They're all at Fort McPherson, Atlanta, Georgia, and the few that are there then go back to Yountville and party. They're partying. There are no negotiations. The negotiations are a total lie. They're just waiting. I'm not sure what Trump's waiting for, but he's making the Democrats look like, well, they are. They're demon. They're walking, talking, ruling demons. They want you dead. It's a demon. So Kash Patel lashes out at Congress. It doesn't say Congressman Smith. It says Mr. Smith. So it's a fake Congress. He lashes out and said, we've arrested over 8,500 violent criminals. And 6,500 of them were from gangs. Well, that's fine, but the gunshots still continue in Tacoma, Washington. And we are the highest per capita murder rate in the world. And the world is laughing at the United States because we have the highest per capita murder rate right outside my front door. And of course, it's all, I can't say the word CENSORSHIP. I can say the news is suppressed, repressed, and squelched. How's that? So while he's beating his chest in front of Congress, he's squelching the real news. Look how many hits I got, 3,500. After 1 hour, they shut down all the videos off of me. That's all done by the Phoebes. I can't say the word you know what, but I can say Phoebes in YouTube. So anyway, they'll probably hit me hard because they're clobbering the truth. There's Satan's truth, Trump's truth, the lies that the media puts out, and then there's the real truth, and the real truth is squelched by the people who Kash Patel runs. You know, those are all crisis actors that are attacking DEI. Who pays the crisis actors? Well, they almost hired me to be a crisis actor. Sal, who had us an address right next to the CIA headquarters, Sal almost hired me. We recorded the telephone conversations, but we didn't play them on YouTube, but the videos were banned. And I was banned for 2 weeks because I did a video 5 years earlier about the crisis actors, and they needed to ban me for 2 weeks. So that's life. We are totally squelched, thanks to Kash Patel. So while he's speaking out of one, Kash meaning money, Patel meaning chief, he's the chief of the money. While he's speaking out of one side of his mouth, he's stabbing people in the back out of the other side of his mouth. That includes Banjingo. So anyway, on to the Trump. We're not going to arrest the governors or the mayors. We are not going to arrest the mayors. We are not going to obey federal law. We're not even going to arrest that guy in New York running for governor who is an immigrant who came here to change our government, which is in violation of hundreds of laws. We're not even going to arrest him. Instead, what we're going to go after is the low-hanging fruit. So the National Guard has moved into Portland, Chicago, Memphis, D.C., and Los Angeles. They moved into L.A., lots of lawsuits. They moved into D.C., lots of lawsuits from the Demon Rats. They moved into Memphis, Chicago, and when they moved into Portland, dozens of federal lawsuits followed. So why doesn't Trump not go after the low-hanging fruit, but the medium-hanging fruit, the judges? Allowing the cities to issue fake ID to illegal aliens. Why doesn't Trump obey United States Code 18? That's for you to decide. That's why we're squelched, because we tell the truth and the whole truth. So under United States Code 10, Section 12406, originally passed in the General Public Act of 1903 under Theodore Roosevelt, a Republican. He used to be a Democrat and turned Republican, just like all the Republicans in the White House. They used to be Democrats. When you're young, you have a heart, you're a Democrat. As soon as you get a job, you turn Republican, because you see what's happening. So it was repassed under Clinton. So a little history. It was passed in 1903. There was a huge change in the National Guard under Bush Sr. Bush Sr. was not liked by me or any of the other troops. He was considered a devout Satanist. We all know who killed Kennedy. Anyway, he realigned the National Guard and the Army Reserve. And so the Army Reserve became the support agencies, the MASHs, the Mobile Army Surgical Hospitals, like, MASH on TV. The Army Reserve became the supply centers. The Army Reserve became the divisional engineers, not the ones that are out front, but the divisional ones with the big tractors and all that stuff. They became the divisional support system. The National Guard became the Army, the combat wing, combat engineers, infantry. Combat engineers lead the infantry. We take out the minefields, the infantry goes in. As the infantry leaves, we put in the minefields. So I was a combat engineer for a long, long time. And then when you become an officer, so I was in the Army, then I was in the National Guard, because I got my commission, and then Dan Quayle, the president, was a devout human sacrifice. He was a Satanist. Pulled my commission because he found out I was a Christian. Pulled all the Christian gold bars. I got mine back later, but I had to serve in the National Guard for quite a few months. And then when I got my bar back, my gold bar, my lieutenant bar, I became a Federal Reserve officer. So almost 99% of the officers serving in the National Guard are serving as reserve officers. So we have the National Guard, the Army Reserve, and then we have the Army. We have the Navy. I don't think we have a Navy National Guard. We have a Coast Guard. But we do have a Naval Reserve, and then the Navy. We have an Air Force National Guard, Air Force Reserve. We do actually have ships in the National Guard, but I've never seen a naval post under the National Guard. Maybe there is one somewhere, but I've never seen it. So, so the National Guard is run by Army Reserve officers. A little confusing there. So if you're given a reserve commission, you also have a state commission. So in 1903, the Grand Public Act allowed the federalization of the National Guard. And I remember there was a Georgia two-star general that was arrested for disobeying, sending troops to the Gulf. He said, these are state troops. State law says, and the governor says, so they arrested the two-star. Not the governor who ordered him to do it. Not the medium-hanging fruit, but the low-level fruit. The two-star general was arrested in Georgia. I remember that incident. And then we sent 286,000 National Guard troops to Operation Iraqi Freedom in 1991. 200,000 troops came back with mycoplasma forensics incognitus, dropped over dead. One of the things I got. No biggie. So the National Guard was completely realigned. Now, what they're suing on, what the people are suing on, and you need to know this, United States Code 12406. Remember when they nominated the people for the Supreme Court, they asked them, like Kavanaugh, we are being invaded, we are at a time of war, and they said, yes, we are at a time of war, we are being invaded. Now, Trump made that very, very, very clear. So we are at a time, in a time of war, we are in a time of invasion. That was very clear to the people who came into the Supreme Court under Trump. The United States or any Commonwealth's possessions is invaded or in danger of invasion by... This is when you can call out the National Guard. When the United States, it's big U, big S, the United States Corporation, because the original Constitution is little u, little s. If you're a scholar, but you need to know this. Look on your dollar bill, it's all capital letters, all run by a corporation. Look on your driver's license, all capital letters, all run by a corporation. Your passport, same thing. The United States or any Commonwealth or possessions is invaded or in danger of invasion by a foreign nation. We have been invaded by a foreign nation. Immigrants have come in from Mexico. 40% of them are Mexican. That's number one. Number two, there is a rebellion or danger of rebellion against authority of the government of the United States. That's true. The governor of Oregon and California have said they want to kill the president. They will repel any federal troops within their own powers, and they will resist the federal government in total rebellion. We are in a full rebellion. So number two is true. Number three, the president is unable with the regular forces to execute the laws of the United States. That's true. The president controls the people he appoints for the Department of War, but he doesn't control the Department of War. But Hegseth has agreed to obey Trump. So Hegseth is preparing the military and moving them into these 5 cities. And the Department of Homeland Security is the only agency or department that the president controls under United States Code 5, Section 101 through 105. They may have changed that by now. So the president may call into federal service members of the units of the National Guard in any state in such numbers that he considers necessary to repel the invasion, suppress the rebellion, or execute those laws. Orders for these purposes shall be issued through the governors of the states, or in the case of the District of Columbia, through the commanding general of the National Guard of the District of Columbia. The Trading with the Enemies Act, passed in 1917, at the beginning when the United States got into WW1, states that any member who is not a citizen of Washington, D.C. is an enemy of the state. I'll say that again. Any person or persons born outside Washington, D.C. is not a citizen of Washington, D.C. and is therefore an enemy of Washington, the corporation of the United States. So you and I living in Washington, Minnesota, Florida, Maine, Oregon, Kansas, we're enemies of the Washington, D.C. So they are calling out the National Guard to suppress the enemies of the United States. You see, the governors aren't paying their proper taxes because they can't, because the libtard states spend over, and even the conservative states spend 50% of their state budget on illegal aliens. So when you talk about road repair, forget about it. It's all going to illegal aliens, primarily welfare, and we're not even talking about the $8,000 a month going to refugees. Nor are we talking about the food stamps they get, or the medical care, or the free dental, or everything else. That's what Medicaid was made for, because the $8,000 a month they got is not considered income under Medicaid. Refugee pay is not income. So they get full Medicaid. But if you and I get Medicaid or Medicare, there's so many things not covered. So under United States Code 10, it's very clear that there's been a precedent since 1903 under the Public Act that we can realign the National Guard and call it out for internal rebellion. So the people that are throwing up these lawsuits, Trump is forcing them to go to the Supreme Court so the Supreme Court can rule that these judges are, in fact, the Supreme Court has already ruled that these judges are crazy. They're insane. That their lawsuits are frivolous. So we're going to find out what happens over the next few months, because Trump has pushed the envelope to the point where, and we'll save United States Code 10, Section 12406. So 40 years ago when I looked at changing my career, I looked at over 3 million law volumes in the law library in Seattle. Now there's over 10 million laws that have been 10 million. If Israel was destroyed for 600 volumes based on the Old Testament, we've got over 10 million laws. So God's well overdue here. So we're going to see what happens when Trump has called out those people, especially now to Portland, since Portland has crisis actors shooting at Department of Homeland Security. Shooting at Department of Homeland Security folks and getting shot. It's finally reached that point. We're going to find out what happens. You and I together, God bless. I hope you understand now the legal basis on what Trump's trying to do, and that is create order after the Democrats have literally destroyed order in this country. God bless. Thank you very much, and we'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning.